Hi everybody. Today we're going to talk about the biggest mistake I see when people are trying to fast. And it's not just a mistake that regular people make. People in studies do the same mistake, and we're going to talk about it coming right up. What's the biggest mistake that I see? Hands down, the number one mistake is eating too much when you start eating again. So let's think about what fasting is. When you don't eat for a period of time, say you're only eating one meal a day. So by dropping those few meals, what you want the body to do is switch fuel sources. Remember that when you're feeding, your insulin goes up and you tell the body to store food energy, which is calories. You store those calories as body fat. When you fast, you allow the insulin levels to fall, and that's the signal for the body to start using some of those stored calories because nothing's coming in from your mouth. So you're still having a so-called caloric deficit when you measure what you eat compared to what you burn. But so what? That's the whole point of fasting. Suppose your body is normally burning 2,000 calories a day and you eat one meal a day. And in your one meal, you eat 1,000 calories. You are in a caloric deficit because your body is going to have 1,000 calories from your food, and it's going to take 1,000 calories from the stores of body fat to make up those 2,000 calories. And that's the reason why your body doesn't need to lower its metabolic rate, because it's allowed to take the calories out of storage. If you're keeping your insulin levels high by constantly eating, even if you eat 1,000 calories, if your insulin levels are high, you cannot access the calories in your body fat. It's like having money in the bank, but the bank is closed. You can't get the money out. So if you are taking 1,000 calories in, but your insulin level's high, then your body can only burn 1,000 calories. And that's when people notice that their metabolic rate starts to fall. We went over it in last week's video about the most important concept in weight loss, understanding that the hormones are really the key. The most important hormone is insulin, and fasting is simply a way to allow that insulin levels to fall so that when you are having a caloric deficit, that you're able to make up that deficit from your body fat stores. Just like the bank that's closed, you're allowing the bank to open so that you can take out that stuff that you stored in. So some people sometimes ask then, hey, well, couldn't you achieve the same result by just cutting a few calories every day and eating 6 times a day? And the answer is no, because if you're constantly eating, then your insulin levels stay high and your body fat simply cannot give up those calories that it has stored away. In physiology, what we say is that insulin inhibits lipolysis, which is just a fancy way of saying that if your insulin levels are very high, you can't burn fat, because when the insulin levels are high, that's the signal to store fat, not burn fat. So let's look at some of the studies that have been done over the past 5 years looking at intermittent fasting, and unfortunately they've made some of these same mistakes. That is, when people are eating again on that fast day, they eat too much. So if you eat 2,000 calories in a single meal, and you're fasting the rest of the day, well, if you're burning 2,000 calories, you're still not going to have any type of weight loss, because you're storing 2,000 calories in that one meal. The rest of the time, you just release it for the rest of your body. So practically, when you want to fast, what you want to do is tell people to eat, for example, one meal a day. Then on that meal that they're eating, try and eat as normally as possible. You have to reframe your mind and say, look, when you skipped breakfast, when you skipped lunch, you want to take that meal out of your body fat, and therefore your dinner meal is going to be as normal as possible. Yes, you may eat a little bit more, but you shouldn't be eating all of the calories that you would normally eat a day. You shouldn't be eating the equivalent of your 3 meals plus snacks all in one sitting, because that's not going to let you lose weight. So let's look at some of the studies. In 2017, there was a study published in JAMA Internal Medicine, which was a randomized controlled trial. And it looked at two groups of people and randomly assigned them to either fasting or it was assigned to continuous calorie restriction. So the fasting group had a fast day where they were only eating 25% of their calories. And then on their other day, they were going to make up by eating 125% of their normal calories. The other group used daily calorie restriction, which was 75% of normal. So they were eating about 1,500 calories every single day. So the two groups were really matched for calories, but one was taking it sort of all in one day and then trying to overeat the next day. And you can see the mistake here because your fasting is really a time that you're supposed to be allowing your body to eat its own body fat. So if you're going to store excessive amounts on the day that you're not fasting, well, you're just going to use up the excess that you put in. So that doesn't make any sense, and therefore you wouldn't expect to find any difference between the two groups. And unfortunately, that's exactly what they found. But the conclusion they came to was that the alternate day fasting diet was not superior to the daily calorie restriction diet with regard to adherence, weight loss, or weight maintenance. And the problem is that the way they did the fasting in this study was not the way that you would fast in a weight loss clinic. In a clinical setting, I would never tell somebody to, deliberately eat more than you really want to eat on the days that you're not fasting. Why would you do that? That makes no sense. You're going to store those calories, you're going to gain weight. There's nothing magical about the fasting period. It's a way for you to switch from burning the food energy to burning the fat energy that's carried in your body fat. So you do have to allow your body to eat the meal from its body fat. So if fasting is a good alternative to allow you to create the situation where your insulin is falling and you're able to release body fat calories, then hey, why does it matter? The key is to understand that you have to eat normally when you do resume eating and not try to overeat. And they made much the same mistake in this more recent study, which was just published, also in JAMA Internal Medicine. And it also was a randomized controlled trial of 141 participants. And they used a 16-8 fasting protocol. So they would eat for 8 hours of the day and fast for 16 hours. And the two groups were not just different in terms of their fasting period, but unfortunately, they also made the mistake of allowing them to eat so-called ad libitum in the fasting group. Ad libitum is a Latin term which means essentially eat whatever you want. So the group that was in the fasting could only eat during 8 hours, but in that 8 hours, they could eat whatever they wanted. They could eat as many times as they wanted. They could eat ice cream and cookies and brownies if they wanted to. That was the study. The control group, on the other hand, had 3 structured meals a day, in which case they were actually making sure that they're having balanced meals. And you can see the mistake in this study, which is nothing like you would do in clinical medicine. There's 2 real issues here in weight loss. One is the foods that you eat. You can't be eating cookies and brownies if you want to lose weight. Like, everybody knows that. But the other issue is how often you eat. So those 2 issues are now being changed. So the fasting group, yes, they're doing a bit better in that they're not eating all the time, but they're doing worse in that they're allowed to eat whatever they want. In a real clinic setting, I would never tell anybody to eat whatever you want during the fasting period. You're not going to lose the weight that way. Even if you're going to eat for 8 hours of the day, you still got to stick to foods that are healthy, that are unprocessed. So what they did was they mixed these 2 problems. They're sort of like 2 levers that you can pull. You can pull the what to eat lever, which is if you eat healthier foods, you can lose weight. And there's a lever of how often you eat. That is, if you eat less often, you're also going to lose weight. So they pulled the lever in terms of the fasting. They fasted more, but then they pushed it up, the lever that allowed people to eat whatever. So again, if one is up and one is down, well, in the end, you're not going to lose weight. So unfortunately, that's the problem with this study. And once again, if you were just to look at the structure of this study, you would also say, well, I don't think you're going to lose weight. If it was me, somebody asked me, hey, can I eat 8 hours a day but eat whatever I want in those 8 hours? I'd say, no, you're not going to lose weight that way. You have to not only watch what you're eating, but also how much, how often, and how much, and what it is that you're eating. Those are all important factors. The bottom line is this. When you're fasting, the number one mistake is to think that the fasting allows you to overeat in that time, either too many calories, or it allows you to eat whatever you want in the period of time that you're not fasting. Those are not going to allow you to lose weight. You still have to watch the foods that you're eating and how much you're eating. Cutting the eating window down is an effective way to allow your insulin levels to fall so that you can eat normally in that window and allow your body to fuel the rest of it through the body fat stores of calories that you have. And that's the number one mistake. If you're interested, I would really recommend going to watch this previous week's video of the most important concept in weight loss, really talking about how the hormones interact with the calories and how that allows you to lose weight properly. Thanks for watching, everybody.